Hey everybody, Joe Peterson here. So I've decided to start a series of video blogs to talk a little bit about some of the comic books that I've been reading and just kind of do a review of some of the things that I've really been enjoying lately and just kind of share it with you and give you my take on it for what it's worth. So to start this out, I've been reading a lot of the DC Rebirth stuff ever since the summer. So I thought I'd just kind of start out with not just in alphabetical order, but start out with Aquaman actually, because it's really one of my favorite characters in DC, and I know I get a lot of flack for that. And I think Aquaman fans in general spend a lot of their times on the defense. I actually really got into Aquaman back in the New 52 because that was kind of this new version of the character where they were trying to make him a little more edgy, like they were doing with all the DC characters in the New 52. And while that was no argument for me that was a problem for a lot of the characters as well as the other problems they had with New 52. It wasn't really a problem for Aquaman. Arguably, it was one of the best titles of the New 52 run. Jeff Johns did an amazing job with it and really brought an edginess to this character that's born of two worlds. He's Atlantean, he's surface, and he's trying to pull both of these together. And I noticed it brought in a lot of other readers as well. So when I heard that they were going to be, doing Rebirth, and Aquaman was on the docket for that, of course, too. So I've been collecting all the Aquaman issues, again, with a number of other titles since Rebirth started, and now they're starting to come out with the trades for Aquaman Volume 1, which collects Volume 1 through 6 of a storyline called The Drowning. I gotta say, it's awesome. It's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about what they've changed from New 52 to Rebirth with Aquaman. So right away, the uniform or his armor, Aquaman's armor is a little bit different in Rebirth than it was in New 52. And I mean, one of the things I really liked about him in New 52 was the armor. We've got this kind of a gold-plated armor in the New 52 version. It's very kind of sharp looking. They almost look like they're made of teeth or something, and not just scales. There's the issues tended to be very dark. The way he interacted with some of these classic villains, of course, you got Black Manta in there. It really, really worked. However, in this new version, we still have an Aquaman who's no pushover, but he's definitely softened a little bit, and it actually really works for the character. So starting out just with his armor in DC Rebirth, it's much more of a pebbly texture on the shirt. It looks like polished stones that you might find associated with the beach, and on his wrists and on his calves, he has these kind of fins that, if you look at him up close in some of the illustrations, they actually look like sawfish blades. So there's a whole new design, but still kind of holding on to that classic look. This Arthur Curry is a little different than the one that we saw in the New 52, though it definitely references the things like the Throne of Atlantis storyline from New 52, which was really, really a good one too. If you haven't picked that up, I highly recommend it. In this, with the Drowning, what we're seeing is Arthur Curry devoted to Atlanteans and the surface world together in peace. I mean, we see in issue 1 of the Drowning, he's trying to open an embassy between the Atlanteans and the surface dwellers, and of course, there's this long holding grudge between these two worlds. And so he's doing his best to really tie this together. It felt like in all the New 52, Aquaman's main arc was the reluctant king, and in this one, it's not the reluctant king at all. In DC Rebirth, we're seeing an Aquaman that isn't reluctant; he's determined. He's really determined to try to bring peace between these two warring worlds. One of the other things I wanted to mention too here is some of the supporting characters that are in this storyline. Mera is a total badass. She is in every issue that she's in, and that goes from the New 52 even into Rebirth. So they haven't really changed her character too much. The relationship between Mera and Aquaman has always been a pillar of their storylines, and that's the same here as well. One of the other things we need to mention too are the villains, because one of the things that's really made DC Rebirth so good isn't just how they've been treating their heroes, but also the villains, which really, of course, round out the stories. And in Aquaman, it's no different. We've got Black Manta back, we have the Deluge, we have Nemo, and I don't want to give too much away, but we've got some new things that they're throwing out there too. Overall, it's been a really fun ride, just kind of catching up with these characters again and seeing them in this whole new light. So if you haven't had a chance to pick it up yet, and if you're not too ashamed of people making fun of you for reading the comic with the guy who talks to fish, I highly recommend DC Rebirth, Aquaman Volume 1. The storyline is The Drowning. So until next time, support your local comic shop and keep reading. See ya.